thank you for being here. And I wanted to, if it's okay, if for those of whether they're consumers or producers, tell them a little bit about who you are and kind of where you came from and how you started.
Yeah, you bet. So my name is Sheryl Moore, and I am generally recognized as the nation's top expert on life insurance and annuity products. I'm known for that just because what I do is I pull regulatory filings for life insurance and annuities from the regulators' offices, and then I kind of analyze them all and digest them and sink them down. So it's like, what is this annuity or what is this life insurance product? I put it in a little, maybe 2-page quick reference that's easily digestible by agents so that they can see which annuity is best for my client. I run a market research firm called Wink, and we track all of those products in our database, but we're also the firm that tracks the sales of life insurance and annuities in the US. So when you see, for example, Jackson National Life say that the #1 seller of variable annuities, Wink is the company that they're sourcing for that statistic. So
Wow.
I work with regulators to help them understand our business, our distribution, our products and sales. And I work with journalists because I serve as a fact-checking resource for the news media whenever they want to write about life insurance and annuities. And I would say that I'm generally known to be the most connected person in the insurance business because of my relationships with so many different insurance companies, distributors, regulators, what have you. So if you haven't before, follow me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I was going to say where, if they were interested in the database, it was at winkintel.com.
That's right. And it's Wink Intel, which is short for intelligence, INTEL.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay. So can you talk a little bit more specifically kind of about Wink itself? So if I'm an agent or I'm an advisor, what does Wink do for me to make sure that I am either producing more or it's making sure that I'm giving the right information, so when I'm in front of a client, I'm not messing up anything?
Yeah, well, we have almost 1,500 different annuities available for sale today, Tracy.
Wow.
I can't imagine being an independent agent and trying to weed through all of that. And I know that the majority of independent agents are working with a marketing organization that helps them to locate product, but we're a third-party neutral resource. So
Okay.
we don't make an override. We don't care what you sell. We don't even care if you sell.
Right.
What we do is we have this huge database of all the annuities, and you can go in and search on like 150 different criteria. And
Wow.
just say, for example, I'm looking for an annuity that's rated at least an A- with AM Best. I need at least a 10-year surrender charge or less for this client. And we're looking for a product that doesn't use a cap and has at least the S&P 500 index, blah, blah, blah. And it'll shoot out every annuity that meets that criteria and allow you to compare them against one another. So I like to tell insurance agents, this is your due diligence tool, your ability to be able to look at everything that's on the market and narrow down exactly what is right for your prospect and your client. And then it allows you to document in your file why you chose certain products. So
Right.
I think it's just the annuity market unleashed in the palm of your hand, really.
Yeah.
Because we do all the work so you don't have to.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's funny. I don't know how somebody could take 1,500 or really pick from 1,500 annuities without a database. It's like, you can't, it's not possible.
Well, we have old annuities in the database too, Tracy. So
yes,
if you have a
that.
replacement situation or
Yep.
a client with a, orphan contract, we can help you with that too.
Right. I think maybe I'm wrong here, but I think out of all the data, all the annuities that are on the database with ones that have been previous sold or not offered anymore, isn't there something like 70,000 on there? Or did I see that incorrectly?
I think that probably is including all the indexing methods.
Including the index. Okay. Total.
Yeah. So there's about 4,000 different annuities in our database.
Gotcha.
And
okay.
We've run Wink since 2005.
Wow.
So, and initially we were only indexed annuities. We've expanded our reach so that we offer all deferred annuities in the database today, whether you're looking at traditional fixed or multi-year guaranteed,
Right.
indexed, structured annuities, which some refer to as RILAs, and
Yep.
then variable annuities too. So
Wow.
we've added new product lines over time, but we've had all of those lines of business for the past 5 years. And
Okay.
what we've done is just add them slowly and keep the products out there even as they're no longer sold for new sales. So
Okay.
it's a great resource. And I used to use a similar resource for variable annuities when I developed annuities and life insurance products for a home office. But I paid $45,000 a year for my subscription to that resource, and it was just variable annuities.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So when I started my own business, I thought, this information shouldn't cost an arm and a
no.
leg.
Right.
People should be able to have access to that information. So I employ about a dozen product experts here, people who do competitive intelligence, and they help us to make sure that this information is standardized and in a format so that even new agents would understand what they're looking at.
Yeah. And I've liked that so far with being on there. It is although it's comprehensive, it's still easy to analyze and structure it the way that you want to. So I like it.
Thank you.
Why annuities?
Well, I have a personal experience, Tracy. I'm just as passionate about life insurance, and I've had an experience with that.
Is that Google?
Yeah, that's Siri coming through on
Siri.
my Apple Watch here. So I had a personal experience with annuities that really motivated me and made me very passionate about them.
Okay.
I worked for a life insurance company, and I was a single mom with 3 kids and no child support because my husband was a police officer who went to prison.
Oh.
And I had put my money into the company's 401k. It was my first experience with a 401k. I'd previously employed with a company that had an employee stock ownership program. So I was really ignorant on the whole 401k deal.
Okay.
I asked a lot of questions. Nobody's really able to answer my quandaries, and they would say, hey, it's free money. We have a 4% match. You've got to do it, or it's stupid not to participate. So I felt kind of bullied into it, but I did it. And then when the dot-com bubble burst, I lost tons of money. And
Yeah.
just for you to understand, Tracy, I relied on my church just to get by and to have milk for my kids at that point in my life. So I
Wow.
was very, very poor.
Yeah.
My daycare was $455 a week. So I had problems just making ends meet. And I really didn't feel comfortable losing money. I'm a very conservative person by nature.
Right.
And so when I lost that money, I complained to my boss and I said, I don't feel comfortable losing money. And I need to know what to do. My parents don't know anything about money and had never trained me or taught me about finances at all. So my boss, he said, well, Sheryl, why didn't you buy an indexed annuity? And I said, I'm a life insurance expert. I don't know about annuities. So he explained that it was a product that would guarantee me a paycheck no matter how long I lived. And I had been raised partially by my grandparents. So that really appealed to me because I've heard my grandparents expressing concerns about running out of money in retirement. And then when he explained the indexing portion to me, I said, well, that sounds like what I wish I would have bought instead of this dumb 401k thing. Where can I buy an indexed annuity? And he just looked at me pathetically and he said, Sheryl, the company we're employed by is the #1 seller of indexed annuities in the country. Now, that had a lot to do with politics and our RVPs not being compensated for annuity sales, but it immediately motivated me to find out more. And when I went to the library to try and research annuities, I didn't find anything that was credible.
Right.
Then when I started searching the internet, there was a lot of negative, really, I would say defamatory almost information about annuities.
Absolutely.
And I started getting to the bottom of it and finding out, what are the real facts versus fiction. And it really upset me because I thought, what if this was my grandparents? What if they were trying to research whether annuities were right for them or not, and they could not find credible, accurate information? So it really made me feel like somebody needs to get out here and help Americans to be able to discern the fact from the fiction.
Yeah.
So that's really why I began focusing on annuities, just because I was passionate and I wanted to educate the country about these products that so many people don't even know what they are, or
Yeah.
they think they're something that they're not.
Right. Yeah. You know what, when I sit down with a client and we're going through having the annuity conversation and they make that statement to me, well, I Googled or I did this and I found, I think nowadays it's starting to change a little bit more. But so and so had one and it was bad this, bad that, negative this, negative that. I always tell them, first off is I appreciate that because there are some annuities out there that aren't great, right? So I
Right.
appreciate that, and let's not talk about the bad ones. Let's talk about the good ones, which is a good segue into my next question, which is, what do you think, in your opinion, based on all of your experience, what do you think is the worst component of an annuity versus some of the best components of an annuity?
Well, I love and hate them all because I because I don't endorse any company or product, and
Right.
people
Yep.
ask, what's the best or what's the worst, and I say,
There
well, that
isn't one, right?
depends. Yeah, that depends on the client. And really,
Absolutely.
annuities are just tools.
Yep.
So you can't really say a hammer's bad because you couldn't
Yep.
build a house without a hammer.
Right.
But if I had to say my personal opinion, I'm very frustrated by the number of indexing iterations that are available on indexed annuities today, because I think that we really need to keep these products simple. I mean, it's a complex product, Tracy.
Very, very.
You talk to consumers and they don't understand these. They try and relate them back to something they're familiar with, which is normally certificates of deposit. And
Right.
when you start talking about the indexing, it's just like going right over their head.
Absolutely.
So if we're talking about a product that has 20 different indexing methods based on 10 different indices
Yeah.
and uses both a cap and a
Or
participation rate
yeah.
or a spread rate, it's just like, come on, guys, there's too much of it.
Yeah.
I believe in the KISS acronym, keep it simple, silly.
Yeah.
So I get irritated about that because I think that we're complicating the story unnecessarily. Um, if there was a feature on annuities that I had to say I really like, that would be the death benefit.
Okay.
Just because so many people think, oh, this is a product where if I put my money in and I die the next day, the insurance company keeps my money.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, with a deferred annuity, if you die, your beneficiaries get the full value of the annuity. And a lot of
Right.
people don't realize that.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. I don't know. I think I saw you post this not that long ago on LinkedIn, which was how many indexes are actually out there within annuities. It's hundreds now, correct?
138. Yeah,
138 different
138.
indexes. And that's not crediting strategies, that's indexes.
Oh,
Now you
no.
have par rate, which is different. It could be the same index as a spread rate versus cap rate, right? So
Mm-hmm.
and then
And
you
a
have monthly,
participation rate. Yeah.
and then you have 0.1 year and 2 year, and I think there's 3 and 5 year out there now. So that's where
Yeah.
you start to get convoluted. I can definitely see that. I'm the type of guy that appreciates the data, but at the same time, when you're sitting down with somebody, one of the worst things I've done in my career was overanalyze and over explain things. You lose people after a certain, depending on who you're sitting down with, right? And at the
Right.
end of the day, I think annuities were originally designed to be simple products, and they've just
I
developed
agree.
into this convoluted, complex thing that now us as advisors and agents have to navigate correctly. And unfortunately, a lot of us make mistakes, and it costs people. How do you not make mistakes? You use
We don't make it easy on you guys, to keep it
right,
real, Tracy.
right,
We don't. I think it's very hard to be an independent insurance agent today, just because there's really no one watching your back but you. You might have a
right.
marketing organization. I don't mean to disparage marketing organizations, but they get paid on your business,
Exactly, right.
you know? So really, if you're looking for somebody who's always got your back, it's you. It's
Absolutely,
you.
absolutely. I agree. Where do you think annuities are heading moving forward, with all these indexes, with all this complexities that are being wrapped in these products now? Do you think they're heading in a direction that they shouldn't? Do you think they're heading in a good direction? Do you think technology and algorithmic data within the index, do you think that's a good thing? What's your opinion?
Well, I think that we're coming upon a time when annuity sales are going to start being better than they've ever been before. We are actually in the process of compiling fourth quarter 2021 sales, and it looks like it's going to be the highest annuity sales have been in like 13 or 14 years.
Wow.
So
Okay.
that's very encouraging.
Yeah.
But in terms of product evolution, I'd say it's going to continue to be complex and convoluted. And that's just because interest rates are so low. I
Right.
am encouraged. I've seen the 10-year Treasury, which is a benchmark that we use for pricing fixed and indexed annuities. I've seen that inching upwards. And I think yesterday morning when I looked, it was at like 1.93 or something,
Okay.
which is great because just a few months ago, it was at 1.2.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it is slowly inching upward, but that's still incredibly low. I'd like to have the 10-year Treasury at 5%. So we've
Yeah.
got a ways to go there.
Yeah.
As long as interest rates remain low, you can count on complexity in the products. And that doesn't just mean indexed annuities.
Right.
It's other types of annuities too, because the insurance company has to find a way to make this product that doesn't look very marketable in a low interest rate environment look attractive and get people stimulated to buy those and sell those.
Right.
So I would say you can count on additional complexity as long as rates remain low, Tracy.
What do you think is going to happen when rates do come up with these products, with annuities?
They're going to get simplified. We're going
Okay.
to see less indexing methods, less indices, less focus on all these optional riders. Although income riders are here to stay, guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefits aren't going anywhere.
Right.
But there are a lot of products where I'll see, an extra rider that grants you additional liquidity,
Right.
or riders that give bigger bonuses on your income account value. So we're going to see the product get simplified significantly once interest rates do come back around.
Right.
Just because simplicity sells, that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. There are very few, I have a very niche client. I was telling you before, my clientele that I try to go after are the doctors, the engineers, the more analytical people, because I like to be able to explain that stuff. But at the end of the day, you're exactly right. The average advisor and the average person, they want simplicity and they want guarantees and they want the things that annuities are designed to do, which makes sense.
Isn't it ironic that they want the things that annuities offer, but they say they don't want an annuity?
Right. It's funny. Yeah, I see it all the time. So, historically speaking, and I'm going to talk about the fixed index side. Historically speaking, if you're in a halfway decent one, you could maybe see that 3 to 6% possibly within that range, depending on the markets and things. Do you ever think that we're going to get to the point where we start seeing, and maybe it has to do with inflation, who knows, where we do start to see some of these products? I know variable annuities, some of them out there have done some double-digit averages. But do you think an FIA will ever get there?
I just earned 14% on one of my indexed annuities in 2021. So,
Okay.
yes,
So
absolutely.
an average though. Let's look at a 10-year period. Do you think they'll ever average that over
Oh,
a 10-year period?
boy, I think it'd have to be an environment where the 10-year Treasury is a heck of a lot higher than it is
Right.
right now.
Right.
And we would have to have a lot less market volatility.
Right.
So I'm not ever going to say it's not possible, but I don't have a crystal ball, but
Right.
it would take a lot to get there. It really
Yeah.
would.
I agree. I agree.
When I
What's your,
first started developing these products, we had caps of like 9% on
oh,
index annuities.
wow.
And we had some products that had participation rates of 115%,
Right.
but that's really the best that things have been
Wow.
thus far.
Thus far, right.
If you can change it, I'll vote for you for president,
Oh
Tracy.
gosh, I wish I could. You talk about not having that crystal ball and not knowing what's going to happen in the future. If we did, Cheryl, we'd be billionaires, I think, right?
Yeah, that'd be great.
We would know.
We
But
know
we
exactly which indexed annuities to buy too.
absolutely, yeah. What so you said you have an annuity. You don't have to tell us what kind, but what would you think if somebody came to you and said, Cheryl, you know a lot about annuities, we know you don't sell them, okay? But let's talk about the different types of annuities. What would you say when it comes to the types of annuities fit certain situations the best in your opinion?
Well, I'll tell you in full disclosure, I own every type of annuity except for a variable annuity. And that's
Okay.
just not right for me because I'm very risk diverse, but I
conservative, like you
do
said.
own a structured annuity. Yep.
Okay.
My advisor got me a little bit out of my comfort zone and was like, Sheryl, you're only 29. You need to diversify a little bit. So, and I'm glad I did, because I've received some fantastic gains on my structured annuity. But
Awesome.
I would say that there are people who do not feel comfortable earning 0% interest, regardless of what the trade-off is. And those people who really value guarantees are the perfect prospects for like a fixed or multi-year guaranteed annuity.
Right. Right.
Then there's a whole other segment of the population which says, no, I'm gung-ho for risk, because I can tolerate that as long as I have the potential to get all the markets upside. And those people are
Right.
good for variable annuities.
Right.
But then there's this section in the middle where you have people who say, I'm not comfortable only getting 2.5%. I want more than that. And I guess if that means that the worst case scenario, I get nothing or 0% interest credited, that's an index annuity profile all day long. But then you have some people who say, I want more than 2.5%, but I don't feel comfortable risking everything. I'm okay with maybe losing a little bit, but I want to outpace the indexed annuity too. So those people are good for structured annuities.
Right.
I think that people have in their mind that if you're young or younger, those are variable annuity prospects, and the older people are fixed annuity prospects. Right. Everybody's different.
Yep, I agree. Yep. I sat down with somebody not that long ago, and she had hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting in her checking account. And, I can't give her investment advice, but I asked her, I said, do you plan on touching that money over the next 30 years? Probably not. She was in her 30s, right? And her answer was no. But she just couldn't, must have been an anxiety thing. She could not risk any of it. That was part of her profile. She did not want any risk. At that point, maybe an annuity is right for somebody who may be younger, just depending what you're trying to do for that person.
Hey, I bought my first one when I was 29.
I'm 29 and I bought my first one this year. So
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. So it really is, just depends on, what your whole portfolio looks like, what you're trying to accomplish, which is kind of getting into my next question, which is from an insurance agent standpoint, we are not financial advisors. We do have to be careful with giving any type of advice on that sector. And, I train all my agents on doing a good fact finder and doing a good risk profile. Where do you think with, we talk about the DOL rule, which obviously I'm sure you're familiar with everything, and the best interest standard. Where do you think that is going when it comes to an insurance agent versus a securities licensed individual? Where would you, or two-part question actually, where do you think it's going? Where would you like it to go in your opinion?
I don't like change. I'm obsessive compulsive. So I'd be
Okay.
happy if we didn't have to deal with the DOL.
Right.
But that's not going to happen. They're here to stay. And a best interest standard is something that everybody's going to have to deal with, if for no other reason than the fact that insurance companies don't want to have to deal with two different standards.
Right.
And there are states that are enacting a best interest standard. So if you're looking at the state regulated business of insurance, and you have, these 5 states that have a best interest standard and the other 45 use suitability standard, the insurance company is going to go to the lowest common denominator, and they're going to use the best interest standard for everyone.
Right.
So I don't necessarily like that, but that's the way it's headed. I think that people are going to have to get used to disclosing their commissions.
Yeah.
They're going to have to get used to more paperwork. But I think at the end of the day, we're going to start seeing more insurance agents becoming fiduciaries and going with their Series 65.
Right.
I think that that's where we're headed. Yeah.
I already have a couple agents right now studying for the 65 or studying for their CFP, which is another great designation to have. I'm not against more regulation if it's protecting the client, obviously, because unfortunately in our industry we do have people that do the wrong thing, or maybe it's just blatant ignorance, maybe it's just blatant disregard for whatever. And it's unfortunate, but it does happen. So if there's a way that we can find a middle ground to be able to protect those clients against somebody who might have made a mistake or somebody who did it on purpose, I'm okay with that. But there's like that balance there. Where the balance lies, I'm not really sure. That's why I'm not a regulator.
Mhm.
So a couple other questions here for you. What would your general advice be for, let's just say an agent or an advisor? Let's just say they don't offer annuities to their clients and they want to get into it, but they just feel overwhelmed. What would your advice be there?
Well, I think, not to be self-serving, Tracy, but a good place to start is to follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter.
Yeah.
I push out a lot of educational information. And then I've authored over 600 different articles about life insurance and annuities over the past 17 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And you can find all of those on my website at winkintel.com.
Okay.
There's a menu called Industry News, and it'll have a sidebar over on the right-hand side that says Cheryl's articles.
Wow.
If the thing that we've done is make that into a free newsletter. So every time I publish an article, it goes into the newsletter, but we also scour the entire web every day and put every life insurance or annuity article that hits the web into that newsletter that goes out for free once a week.
Wow. And they can
Yeah.
subscribe to that right on there.
Yep, right on
Perfect.
the industry news page.
Awesome.
So I think that's a great place to start, just because reading is really the key. But beyond that, I would say joining groups like your Facebook group is a really great way to get involved and just observe and listen and ask questions.
Absolutely.
Find other agents who sell annuities and maybe have them serve as mentors to you or have them
Right.
help when you have questions. I think
Right.
networking and learning through reading and, shutting up and listening when there's other people more knowledgeable in the room, those things go a really long way.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I always tell my agents proactive approach is always the best type of approach. You're not going to
Agreed.
be able to sit down it's reactive, being reactive in this industry. It'll hurt you in the short run. It'll hurt you in the long run. If you're not somebody who likes to be proactive, maybe annuities aren't right for you, because really you really should be proactive with learning. It's funny when I hear advisors out there, when I talk to some of the top annuity advisors that are writing 100+ million annuities a year, I ask them, what don't you know? Right. And they'll always say, I don't know a lot. I'm always learning. And that's, I think, what will separate somebody from the $200,000 annuity producer to the 200 million annuity producer is this
Yep.
one is always going to know that they'll never know everything. But databases like yours do definitely help.
Well, thank you.
What would be your advice for, let's say, a prospect? Now, I know that's a thin line there to be careful of, but let's just say somebody is listening to this and they're not an agent and they're like, well, I'm getting to that age, maybe an annuity makes sense for me, but I don't know what kind or whatever. What would be your overall just general advice for them?
Well, I think I'm the only person who does what I do in the entire, well, probably in the entire world, based on the consulting I've done with other countries. But I think that it's good to seek out the information that I have, because really my passion is educating the masses. And the
Right.
reason why my data is available for sale to begin with is so that I can use that to write more articles or do more YouTube videos or what have you to educate the masses. So seeking out any information that I have distributed, whether it's my YouTube channel or articles that I've written, I think that's a really good place to start, just because you can rely on the credibility and the accuracy of the information that I put
Right.
out. I'm
Right.
a data nerd. So
Exactly. And there's no
yeah,
bias. There's no bias coming from you. You're
exactly.
not selling a product. I have bias. I'm an agent, right? No matter what anyone says, I can try to be as non-biased as possible, but I don't make money unless you buy it, right? And I tell people that.
Right.
So using some type of third-party database, there's no bias there. If it's a free database or you purchase it, it doesn't matter. They're there to give you education at the end of the day.
Yeah. And we get emails from consumers all the time. Now, I am a licensed insurance agent.
Oh, okay.
I've never sold a case ever. I actually spend
So
hundreds
you're a
of
terrible
thousands of
insurance
dollars.
agent is what you're saying.
I'm terrible. But I spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on life insurance and annuities for my employees and my family every year. And my advisor comes over and signs the app and gets the commission on that, just so I can
Wow.
continue to say I don't endorse any company or
Wow.
product. But I'm licensed so that I can know what do you have to go through in order to be an agent.
Right.
I love continuing education. I'm a nerdy person with that, but yeah, I have some credibility that people like you can't offer just because I don't care if they buy an annuity or not.
Right.
I just
Right.
want them to have the information so that they can make a good decision on whether or not it's right for them.
I love that. That's awesome. Um, a couple more questions here. So I'm going to get into a kind of a specific topic that this is something that's a little bit passionate to me, and I've tried to do as much research as I can because I'm a big FIA guy, so fixed index annuity guy. And I try to do as much research on history of companies and history of indexes so that I can kind of try to map out as much as I can in the future, or at least put somebody in the best position. But there's a factor out there when you're an agent and you're selling an FIA that is like, you'd never know what it's going to do. And that is talking about participation rate strategies and how a lot of these companies out there will come out with these high participation rates and they just plummet after a year or two. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a distribution issue, Tracy. And I've developed hundreds of indexed annuities throughout the years. I can tell you that's all about independent insurance agents.
Okay.
Because I, as an insurance company, I need to get you to sell my product. And there's, let's say, 80 other insurance companies that distribute through independent agents. How do I get your attention
Right.
over the other 79 insurance companies that are selling against me? And the best way to do that is through shiny, bright objects. And normally, making those rates very attractive in the first year is the best shiny, bright object that you can offer to get an independent insurance agent's attention, just because not only does that look good from a rate standpoint, but it also illustrates well, right?
Absolutely. Right.
And when it comes to illustrations, we know whoever has the highest value wins.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and the only way you can't sustain those shiny, bright objects, they've got to come from somewhere when you're trying to make your money back up. And so our industry has a reputation for playing bait and switch with enforced renewal rates on indexed annuities,
Right.
just because historically, as much as 80% of sales have been sold through independent insurance agents. Now that's closer to 55% of all sales today.
Okay.
But independent insurance agents still make up the bulk of all sales of indexed annuities.
Wow. It's I look at some of these companies and they have illustrations that show 15.5% average, which
That's a crime.
it is. It's exactly a crime. But if I'm an agent and I'm new and I'm just listening to, let's just say, an FMO or an IMO, and they're just marketing that piece to me, how am I ever supposed to know? Right. So
right.
What would you say? What would you say? How would you say an annuity should be structured to be able to hold a good participation rate and not be inflated? Because I'm a big structure guy. I kind of understand from a perspective of the research I've done how it should be structured where they can hold a rate well. What is your perspective on that?
Well, I got to keep it real for you. If you see all of these annuities that look really similar and they're in this circle, and then there's this one guy outside of the circle who looks so much more attractive than all the guys in the circle, I promise you, he does not know something that all the other guys don't know.
Right.
But the reality is, indexed annuities are priced to return 1% to 2% more interest than fixed annuities that are being issued on the same day.
Right.
So today, that means, fixed annuities are averaging about 3%.
Yep.
That means index annuities sold today are going to average 4 to 5% over the life of the contract. Yes, I got 14% on one of my indexed annuities last year. That's not sustainable to expect every year, much less on a linear basis.
Right.
I get really, really frustrated with the illustration topic. I used to be an illustration software developer before I developed indexed annuities and life insurance products. So I get really upset about that just because, like you said, how do you know that that's not realistic, especially if it's on insurance companies' own vendor-sponsored software?
Exactly.
How are you supposed to know that's not a reasonable expectation for gains on these products?
Right.
But that's why it's important to understand that it doesn't matter what the indexing method is. It doesn't matter what the index is. It doesn't matter if you're using a participation rate, a cap rate, or a spread rate. Over a long period of time, they're all going to perform about the same.
About the same. That's an interesting perspective. I like that. you know, it really is awesome being able to talk to somebody that has so much experience in the space. And I really appreciate you coming on and being able to share a lot of that with us. Is there anything that you want to kind of leave with as far as anything you have going on? I think you guys have something exciting going on at Wink that will be released here soon. And some type of
We just released it.
You just released it. Okay.
Yep,
Tell us
just
about
released it,
that.
Tracy.
Tell us about it.
So in addition to making all the product and rate information available on the annuities at Annuity Specs, we just released an enhancement where you can download all of the consumer brochures and agent guides and the regulatory filings and the rate sheets and what have you on all the products in our database. So we're really excited to announce that enhancement because it's something that I dreamed of before I ever started the system back in 2005.
That's awesome. I love it. That's very handy. I used there's a couple other databases out there that we use, and there was one that did have that on there. And it's nice to see you guys because you guys are a lot more comprehensive than theirs. So it's nice to have that, just being able to see a brochure from a company that maybe I don't represent, that they might not give me some of those tools unless I'm in contract with them or whatever. It is nice to be able to see that. So that will help out a lot of agents for sure.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that it helps you, Tracy. That's great.
Thanks. Well, if there's anything else that you'd like to leave us with, this has been awesome. I really appreciated your time. And I look forward to following you. And I definitely suggest whoever's watching this, make sure to follow her. I've followed you for the past couple months, and I like how you keep it real, and I like all the information you give out. That's cool. And by the way, just so you know, my background a little bit, we didn't get into that at all, but I'm actually a former police officer. Myself, I am, yeah, former police officer and former military.
I won't hold it against you. My ex-husband was in the Army and a police officer.
That was me as well. So I was smart enough to get away from that, seeing where we're at in today's day and age, which is a whole nother
Good for you. It's scary.
It is very scary. But anyways, well, thank you. I appreciate it, Sheryl.
Thank you for having me on, Tracy. I really appreciate it. And I'm very passionate about helping independent insurance agents because it's so difficult to navigate this business. We don't make it easy for somebody who says, I want to be an insurance agent, to figure out that road path. So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to have a voice out here and speak with the people in your group. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.